we're about to have on our podcast on iTunes, or go to talenttalkradio.com. Which is another great place to follow us. You can also go to Stitcher or wherever you find podcasts. You can find us. Just look for Talent Talk or look up my name, Chris Dyer, and you should be able to find us, follow us, share us, whatever it may be. We hope you're enjoying all the content. My next guest, who I mentioned, is live in our studio, Tom Baine. He's the president of the SoCal division of LANDSEA Homes. And as a reminder, you can follow us on Twitter at PeopleG2. We're doing a live tweeting right now of all the best little blurbs, all the best things that were said. We tweet out there and follow that hashtag Talent Talk. So, Tom, welcome to the show today.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're absolutely welcome. So, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself, what you're doing, and of course, tell us more about your company as well.
Okay. Let's see. I'm a local guy. Grew up in Orange County. Went to high school locally. Went to UC Irvine. Played baseball in college and professionally 5 years afterwards, and then sort of really fell into home building towards the end of my baseball career. Basically got hired on by a local home builder who was trying to improve their softball team and started out in the industry that way.
That's a fantastic story. So you get recruited into the business through the softball team. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. And 30 years later, I'm still in the business. So I worked for my first company for 28 years, then been with LANDSEA the last year and a half. But I think I just love the business because of the teamwork involved, and it's something that it's very tangible. We have projects that we start and finish, so there's a lot of gratification from accomplishing the projects.
Right. And which local high school did you go to?
I went to Mater Dei.
Mater Dei. Okay.
Yes.
We have to, as being a local person as well, it's always interesting to know everybody went to school. So maybe everybody else out there in the internet world won't care, but I did. So why don't you tell? What kind of projects is LANDSEA working on?
Okay. Let's see. So LANDSEA Homes, we're a national home builder. We have four divisions. It's one in Southern California, one in Northern California, one in Arizona, one in New York. And we're a relatively new company. We've been around 6 years. Mm-hmm. In Southern California, we have a couple projects in Orange County. We have a big master plan community called Iron Ridge and Lake Forest.
Okay.
We have 5 different product lines there, and those range from townhomes starting in about the mid 500s all the way to single family detached. That's about 1.4 million. We have a project in Newport Beach called Lido Villas. That's 2 to 3.5 million, which we're almost done with. We have a project in Simi Valley called Westerly. Mm-hmm. That's a townhome project. And then we have some new projects coming up. One in Chatsworth called Cressley, and then a couple big projects in Ontario that we're working on right now.
So, being in this type of business, I mean, if anyone's ever had a general contractor or anyone working at their house over a long period of time, you can remember maybe some of the frustrations. So, I mean, you're sort of in this every day, right? You have people, you have builders, you have all these different companies and different contractors coming in and doing things. Do you have to take on a particular leadership style, or are there certain things that you have to do sort of in the unique complexities of your business and handling all those different types of people, doing those types of projects?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, we have relationships. We have to work with a lot of subcontractors, trade partners that do the actual work. We just supervise the work. So we have construction superintendents on the site, but we also work with a lot of consultants that help us with the architecture and engineering and planning. And so we really have to work in a professional way to make our business and LANDSEA very attractive for those companies to work with. So it's very important that when they work with us, that we're ready. For example, on the construction site, when they come to do the job, they could come out and do it efficiently. Mm-hmm. And with the consultants, we always want to be responsive to them, and we expect response in return. And so it's really important that we're professional, well organized, so that the businesses that do work with us can make money and have a good work experience with LANDSEA.
Well, it's amazing how much just a little bit of communication and a little bit of planning inside of these types of projects can have a huge impact. I mean, I had a project at my house, and after about 2 days of watching them running around with their heads cut off, I said, maybe, I know you guys have not ever heard of Scrum or Agile, but I'm going to do a Scrum with you guys, and we're going to plan this out. What are the things we have to do? And magically they could see it, and they were like, oh, well, we can't do this until this guy does that. And so, yeah, you better make sure he can be here at 2, because then everyone's stuck, right?
Right.
And just a little bit of organization really changed everything. So I think you have people that are highly skilled at what they do, but maybe don't have necessarily any leadership or management training, right? It's not a typical thing for someone who's doing maybe a trade position to have that kind of training. So do you guys provide some of that as those sort of supervisors? Are you providing the management, or are you guys trying to also train them as well at the same time?
We don't do a lot of training directly with the contractors. We really expect them to do that, to have their own supervision on the site to make sure that their workers are doing the work to the standard of quality that we expect at LANDSEA. Right. And but we're professionals at this, and we do this as a business, so we're very well organized in terms of the schedules and having it laid out very efficiently. Right. And so yeah, it doesn't mean that necessarily everything always goes to plan. There's things, we experience things like you may experience at your house where somebody doesn't show up, or there's a problem, their truck breaks down, and it's kind of the old excuses that have been going around for a while. But in general, we try to associate ourselves with really good quality contractors that perform, and those are the type of people we want to align with. And when things do go wrong, we're pretty resourceful people and figure out a way to keep the project moving forward and work around these slight hiccups in the process.
And that's what's really key, right? It's not that no problem's ever going to happen. It's how do you respond to the issue? How do you correct it? How do you get somebody else in there or get things back on track? Maybe over the long term, you want to work with, sounds like you're pretty experienced. You know how to work with the right people that are going to be consistent most of the time. But I often tell our clients, I'm never going to promise you 100% perfection all the time. It's how we respond to the issue that I think is important.
Yeah, I think so. And I think we have a little bit more control over the contractors and consultants that we work with. But we also have to process plans through the cities. And sometimes they don't respond exactly how we would like. And so we have to really be on top of our game and make sure to follow up with them and make sure that they respond. And when they do kind of stop us, then we do everything we can, every different way we can to keep moving the project forward. So we're constantly, our business is extremely time sensitive. The quicker that we get on a site, we want to start our model homes as soon as we can and get them built and open up for sale as soon as we can and close out as soon as we can. So there's always a lot of pressure on us to get things done as quickly as we can. So any sort of hiccup in the process, we have to, has our full attention, and we're working very hard to get around it and through it.
One of the things that has been coming up a lot lately with companies is sort of what is their corporate social responsibility. Is that something you guys are spending some time with?
Yeah, it's very important to LANDSEA. It's really important that we get involved in our communities and help out and coordinate different charitable events. In fact, this last Friday, we had a dedication of a 8-unit apartment building that we renovated for Homemade and Families Forward to help with the homeless issue that's very prevalent in our communities today. And so LANDSEA took the job of being the builder partner, and so we, with the help of our trade partners and consultants that we work with, kind of organized the work effort to really improve these buildings so that they're really nice for the new families that are going to live there. So we completed that last week, and already I think this week they were planning for 4 or 5 families to be occupying those homes, which is very gratifying, and we're really happy to participate in that.
Yeah, and that's a great thing for the the corporation overall to be kind of backing and to be part of the community and provide that responsibility. Do the employees also get involved, and do they have a way to give back to the community as well?
Yeah, in particular, like on that Homemade project, we organized a few team days, which is great for our company to get together and spend time together and work on a charitable cause, which makes everybody feels good. We had a demo day taken out, and because one of the work efforts was to remodel the kitchen, so we took out all the cabinets and tile, and so got a lot of people to swing a sledgehammer and get dirty and get dusty, and then we had a few cleanup days, which was great. So yeah, everybody gets involved, and everybody's really supportive, and it's great to work with such a great team that feels good about helping out those around us.
Yeah, those first 4 or 5 sledgehammer swings are pretty therapeutic. After that, you get tired, and then okay, someone else can take a turn. So.
Right, yeah.
Well, I know you guys have lots of different employees and sort of been lauded in a lot of prestigious award competitions. What do you sort of attribute the distinctions and some of the successes you've had in this area?
Well, I think LANDSEA, we've done a really good job of acquiring great properties and done a good job on the planning as far as the architecture and product and executing on that. So our project in Iron Ridge was voted Master Plan Community of the Year. Our project in Newport Beach actually won quite a few awards for architecture and design, which was really great, really kind of put LANDSEA on the map. And then we've had quite a few individuals that have won individual awards for sales or construction and customer care. So, I just think our team is very talented, and there's a lot of energy and enthusiasm around LANDSEA. I think maybe because it's a new company, and just I think everybody's excited to work for the company and really feels very proud to work for the company.
Well, I'm excited to hear that you won some design and architecture awards, because some parts of Orange County can be quite they look exactly the same, right? There can be some planned communities you're like, am I in this city or am I in that city? But I think late in the last 5 years, I've noticed some really good design sort of influences, right? As opposed to being more, well, let's just make it cookie cutter or whatever it is. And I don't know if that was design intentional or if that was cost things happening, stuff being built during the recession. But certainly seeing I think the character, right? If you have a community that has a certain character, has a certain design, I think that adds to the overall community.
Oh yeah, we take a lot of pride in our architecture and feel like the exterior elevations, how you feel when you drive down the street and how the homes look is very important. And so we're not the cookie cutter type of builder. We're not the extreme value, low cost builder. Of course, we try to build it for as low cost as we can, but we want to have architecture that appeals to the public on the outside, and then inside we want our floor plans to be as efficient as possible. So our projects, if you go down, go through them, and I think you'll notice that we take a lot of pride in the work that we do.
So what's next for LANDSEA Homes? I mean, you continue to motivate your team and reach new levels of success. What are some of the goals and things that you're thinking about? Now, a lot of people keep saying as we enter a new decade, and I do want to remind everyone, we have another year until we enter the next decade, which is actually in 2021. But as we enter the next 10 years, I guess, and start 2020, what are some of the things you're thinking about?
Well, just immediately, I mean, we have some great new projects coming up. We have a project in Chatsworth called Cressley that we're opening up the model homes this weekend. And then we have two great projects in Ontario that we're currently, the first one, we're working on models there on 4 sets of models, and that's going to be a great project for us. And overall, it's really exciting times for LANDSEA because, again, we're new. This is last year was our first year of closing, so we closed 100 homes. This year we'll close over 200, and then next year we'll close over 300 and 450 the year after that. So we're in a growth period. It's very exciting, and then we're always working on new projects. So it's really great being part of a new company in a very strong growth stage.
So with my previous guest, we were talking a lot about mindset and having a positive company culture. And do you think that's something that you bring into the organization as something that's a focus for you as far as thinking about what's working and what's going well, as opposed to some companies focus on problems, they focus on the negative and what's not working?
No, I mean, we have plenty of problems to overcome, but yeah, it's the culture at LANDSEA and definitely in our division is very positive. We try to have very open and honest communication. It's a very team-oriented business with different functions that have to work very closely together and coordinate their work. So it's really important that we communicate very well, that we are open and honest. We kind of learn from our mistakes, and that we work really well together. And there's a lot of frustrating parts of it. So it's really important to me that people have really good, positive attitudes, and that we again work really well together.
So, being someone that came from a very sports specific background and even got recruited in for that reason initially, right? But have stayed in this industry for as many years as you have. Did you find that there was ever a moment where you had to kind of make a shift from, what is this sports related mentality around teams and around how we manage people is it different for you? Did you have to kind of make a shift into the business world? And I say that because I was sort of leading my team for many years as this sports kind of a rah, but it was also a little command and control. It was a little do what I say because I said so, right? I'm the leader of the team, and you're going to go play first base, so go do what I said, right?
Right.
And I had to change over time in order for our company to succeed. Did you ever feel like you had to shift some of that mindset or shift some of that leadership?
Well, I think that. Yeah, I mean, you just can't tell people to go do their job. I try to work with them and be supportive, encourage them, and help them out where they need help. I think a lot of similarities are that, we do have in our business different positions, and for us to operate optimally, everybody really does have to fulfill their responsibilities of their position. So I think in that respect, there's a lot of, similarities to a very successful sports team where you can't just be strong in one position. You really
Sure.
got to be strong in all the positions. So, and so we try to hold each other accountable and make sure that everybody's fulfilling their responsibility along the way.
So one of the things we love to ask our guests is about books, because we get such incredibly fascinating suggestions. So is there a book that you're reading right now, or one that you typically suggest people check out?
Yes, I'm not a big reader, but I just did read a book. My son encouraged me to listen to this podcast, and on it there was a book, and you may have read it, but it's called It Doesn't Have to Be Crazy at Work. It's Jason Friedman, but basically it's about how a lot of companies are just working crazy hours and their people don't have any quality of life, and it's essentially because the way those companies operate is that they have too many meetings, they do things that they're not supposed to, don't really have to do.
Right.
And so I thought that would be a good book for me, because I'm probably a little traditional. I've always been a hard worker, and just thought it'd be good to balance my perspective on that.
Well, and it aligns perfectly with the conversation we just had. And we were talking about this concept of, if everyone thinks you're supposed to work a long hours and that means that you're working hard, it doesn't necessarily mean you have enough work to fill up an 18-hour day. If everyone's supposed to work an 18-hour day, so suddenly you start having all these meetings, you start filling that time with junk, right? And having calls and doing things you don't need to do. And if we compact things, if we tell people you need to get all this done in 8 hours, you move more efficiently, you're more effective, your meetings, or maybe cut down meetings and you just tell people what they need to know. I mean,
right. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think that our industry went through a really tough time in the recession, and a lot of the builders cut their staff in half or less. Yeah. And so you really, at that time, really figured out what you really needed to do and what you didn't do. And, based on that experience, I think in general, builders are much more efficient nowadays. They're not doing things that really don't have a strong implication on the bottom line.
Yeah, for as hard as the recession was for a lot of companies, it helped kind of help them be stronger, think about being more efficient, actually get them to adopt technology and new processes, because they kind of had to.
Right. Yeah.
And figure out who their best employees were. You couldn't just not think about it. You had to really think about who you had to keep and who maybe had to go. So you've mentioned a lot of fascinating things today, and I really appreciate you coming into the studio to kind of share what your company's doing. If somebody only heard one thing, if they only happened to pay attention for 30 seconds, what are you hoping that they would take away from the things that we talked about today?
I'd hope they take away that LANDSEA is a great company. We do a lot of great projects, and hopefully that would interest them to come out and check it out.
And the other thing that this is a question we used to ask a lot, and I thought maybe might be appropriate here today for us is, is there someone in your background, maybe a coach, a parent, or someone that you maybe kind of really started you on your leadership journey? Where do you have a person in mind, or a couple people in mind, that maybe you kind of got some of your initial thoughts about leadership around?
Yeah, I haven't really thought about that, but I guess I would have to really default to my dad. I think my dad was always, and it still is, a great person in my life and a great example for me in terms of sports and leadership and being competitive, and really always just trying to do the best you can to succeed, whether it's at work or in a game or with your family or whatever you're doing. So I would definitely have to say my dad.
And did that come through like inside of sports? Was he your coach, or was that more than his work ethic with whatever he did with his job?
It was both. Yeah, he was coached my little league teams and was always involved and always came to our games. And he's a successful businessman. He was a civil engineer and worked very hard at work, and was an ambitious guy at work as well. So I think in both respects.
Yeah, it's amazing how many people usually mention a family member. I think probably the most common answer. The second most common answer might be like a first boss, right? That first person that kind of took them under their wing and taught them things. I remember for me it was my grandfather, seeing how hard he could work and how good he was what he did, but he somehow was always generous to people. He didn't need to be. but it was like his way to be like more generous. And I think now, like, how many times I see people like just they have opportunity to be generous, to give their time to help somebody, and they don't want to do it. And he just could be generous to everyone. I remember that kind of really had an impression on me and set me on a path, along with maybe a first boss. So it's always a fascinating thing to ask our guests. We kind of learn a lot about them that way. But if people are interested in checking out your homes, maybe they want to come work for you, maybe they want to learn more about you, what's the best way for them to find out more about you and your company?
Just go on you Google LANDSEA Homes. It's and our website is landseahomes.com. So it's LANDSEA then homes.
Yeah, it's not the easiest one, but hopefully they get it looks like land and then sea.
Exactly.
So, sea as in the ocean. So
Right.
There's a few of them there. But anyway, so hopefully people can check them out. And if you're local in Orange County, you certainly can, or any of the places where they're at, you can go and check out their places. And it sounds like they've got a lot of fantastic homes coming up for sale, so you can go check those out. But Tom, thanks so much for being on the show today. Really appreciate you coming in. And thank you to everyone who listened today. Hopefully you gained something that you can use in your own career in a positive way. As I mentioned, this is our last show of 2019, so we'll get to our first show of 2020 here in January. We'll bring in our guest, Brandon Moreno, president of EverHive Corporation, and then John, I knew I'd mess up someone's name, John DeHelios, author of The Relationship Economy. But until then, do what you love and show the world how talented you can be today.
You've been listening to Talent Talk Radio, brought to you by People G2.